Welcome back to the news today. This is One on One. 25 years ago today, the Berlin Wall fell. The wall, more than anything else, was the symbol of the Cold War between the communist bloc and the West. Tonight, we have as our guest Avi Primor, who was Israel's ambassador to the EU when the wall fell, and who later served as Israeli ambassador to Germany. Ambassador Primor, thank you for joining us in I-24 News. I will start this day 25 years after the fall of the wall in Berlin. How do you look at the historical event?
Well, I watched it on television when I was in Brussels, as you said. I was ambassador in Brussels at that time. And I found, I was excited. I was really very excited. I thought I saw a historical event which you see once in a lifetime, or even that you don't. I was absolutely amazed by the fact, and happy by the fact that I saw the dictatorship of Eastern Germany crumble, and I was sure that that meant the crumbling of communism, because if communism wouldn't have been so weak at that particular time, if the communist regime would not be at the end of its life, the East Germans wouldn't have let the wall fall, because the wall was something invented by the communists and not by the Germans. So I believed at that time that this is a wonderful event because it means freedom, the end of dictatorship, the end of slavery of the Eastern European nations, or even the nations of the Soviet Union. But not everybody saw it that way.
What were the main impacts of this event? How did the world change?
Look, the wall meant, as I just said, the end of communism, the freedom of the Eastern European nations. Now we have a European Union that englobes almost all of Europe. This was not the time. So at the time, it was not so. Secondly, it changed the mentality of the world. There's no more Cold War. There's the triumph of free market, of the free economy.
Cold War here?
Pardon?
You didn't see any Cold War, for example, between USA and the EU about Ukraine and crisis?
Oh, you have crisis, many crises, but you have crisis all over the world. It's not a Cold War. It's not something that endangers world peace or endangers the existence of the human race, because war between the Soviet Union and the United States could have meant the end of humanity. This is not the case anymore. Now we have a struggle for power between nations, as the world always had. Yeah. It's not the same situation as the Cold War.
Did you think this step was a declaration of the end of the Cold War between what we say, the communist bloc or the West and the communism? Can we analyze the current conflict, Ukrainian-Russian, and the West conflict in Cold War terms?
No, I don't think so. I heard that Gorbachev, who held a speech in Berlin, said that we're on the edge of a new Cold War. That's not the way I see it. I don't think that there is any danger of war between East and West today. I think there is a struggle for power on specific spots on the globe, and this will be solved like power struggle everywhere. Somehow they will come to a compromise that will be in favor of one or in favor of the other, but I don't think we stand today on the edge of a Cold War, of a world war. This is not really realistic.
Do you think that Germany can today give a message for the both sides in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Well, every message of peace is good for the Middle East. Every message of reconciliation is good for the Middle East, but the situation is not the same. Look, the Berlin Wall has nothing in common with the wall we have here in Jerusalem or between the West Bank and Israel. No comparison, because the Berlin Wall separated between two parts of the same nation, two parts of the same, one and the same nation. Our wall is a wall that separates between two nations. It's a different story. Two nations are more or less in a state of war. It's a totally different situation. Secondly, the Berlin Wall was not a German decision. It was a Soviet decision. They have decided to instruct their collaborators in East Germany to construct the wall. But it was not a German interest or a German decision. So it's a totally different story. And the war we have here is, by definition, first of all, an Israeli decision, not a decision from outside. Secondly, by definition, something that is there in order to protect the Israelis against terrorist attacks. And when the situation changes and there will be no danger of terrorist attacks, when we sign the peace, there will be no war, because there will be no necessity for a war. In Germany, when they constructed a wall, they thought it will be eternal, because they wanted an eternal separation between the two German states.
Okay. Do you think the foreign policy of the EU can help the Middle East solve this complicated, massive problem?
I don't believe we can solve the problem of the Middle East without a help. And when I say help, I'm being very gentle. Without help of the outside world, mainly the United States and the European Union. I don't think we're capable of solving the problem all by ourselves. Whether we or the Palestinian government, we need the help, or even much more than help, of the outside world, and I repeat, that means the United States and the European Union.
The Israeli policy now, some of political people in Israel are against the policy of EU in the Middle East.
They've always been against. They've always been against. Israeli governments never wanted any foreign intervention. That's true. But if we hope for peace, if we believe in peace,
this conflict is related for the both sides.
If we want to achieve a peace that can be realistic, that means the separation between Israel and the West Bank, a separation between a state of Israel and a state of Palestine, the two states living in peace and cooperation with each other, I don't think we can achieve it without massive help of the outside world.
So
that's my opinion.
We have the need of the help of US or the EU to solve this conflict?
I don't believe that the US is still in a position to conduct world policy all by itself. Even though it's the most powerful nation, it is not as powerful as it used to be. And I think the Americans...
But do you think that the EU have the power to be more influenced in this conflict?
If they want to, they can. They're the richest union in the world. They're also bigger in population than the United States. They're not united as the United States are. That's their weakness. But I don't think that the European Union will be in a position to lead the way. This they will not do. They will not initiate a peace process. But they can support an American initiative, and they can help the Americans in conducting such a peace process. And I don't think the Americans will do it without a substantial support of the European Union.
What is the role for Germany in the EU?
Look, Germany is today the most powerful country in Europe, but Germany alone does not conduct the European Union. Germany alone cannot lead and does not want to lead the European Union. Germany wants to do everything with France. Wherever you look at it, from the beginning, it was always a partnership between the two countries who led the European Union.
Do you agree with those who think it was a mistake for Germany to become one country again?
No. First of all, I think it was not realistic to think that Germany will remain divided. The division of Germany was not natural. It was imposed from the outside, from the Soviet Union. From that moment on, when there was no Soviet Union to impose such a separation of two parts of Germany, nothing could stand on the way of a reunification. It's one nation, it's one country.
Okay. Mr. Primor, thank you for this interview for I-24 News, and thank you, our viewers, for watching us, and see you again.